Greetings. I'm your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution Podcast for all the returning listeners and subscribers, and of course, our very valued patrons. Thank you so much for continuing to come back. For those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. So glad to have you here. If you do dig what we're doing, please hit like and, of course, hit subscribe. It goes a long way into promoting the channel. Also, for the patrons, we have the Crisis Papers. Issue number 5 is out. It is a series of essays on a wide variety of topics. Issue number 5 is out. Second time around, musings how we got another election of Donald Trump. Interesting to see some of you guys' comments on that. Also, don't forget that you can gift a Patreon subscription. I know the holiday season is over, but the ability to give the gift that keeps on giving, a Patreon membership to the Champagne Room. I mean, don't you want to share all the sex jokes that we have in the Champagne Room with your best friends? Do it. We'd appreciate it. It would help us make better dick jokes. Yeah. Now that we got that out of the way, on to the show. Let's talk about the education revolution. Quote, as long as the general population is passive, apathetic, diverted to consumerism or hatred of the vulnerable, then the powerful can do as they please, and those who survive will be left to contemplate the outcome. That is a quote by Noam Chomsky. Welcome to today's discussion, where we dive into the crucial intersection of media, education, and politics. In an era where algorithms serve us tailored realities, be it pro-Stalinist justifications or alt-right conspiracy rabbit holes, political education isn't just valuable, it's essential for reclaiming democracy. How do we equip ourselves to critically engage with information when even facts seem negotiable? From our guest's book, Education Revolution, Media Education for Political Awareness, there is, to my knowledge, no built-in emphasis or infrastructure on teaching media literacy. And look at what type of adults this creates. That's funny. Functioning adults who went through the American education system think it's somehow plausible that Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates have teamed up to vaccinate everyone to death because one video came out by some guy on YouTube who interviewed a quack of a doctor in the internet blockbuster pandemic. A state representative in the neighboring town actually defended her pandemic advocacy by going on a long rant about how wonderful it is in America that we can all have opinions and disagree about stuff. Sure, that's awesome, but to what extent? If a bunch of people begin to disagree that traffic lights are a ploy to turn us all into mindless sheeple, or drunk driving is okay, or can I just say and do anything I want because of freedom, what the hell kind of world does that look like? It's completely insane. Not all opinions are created equally. Opinions should be formed based on facts, evidence, empathy, and compassion, not what you want to be true or were misled to believe. That is a quote from our guest today, author, educator, musician, Sam SHAIN.
Hey, Jason.
Did I do your book justice with that?
I think so. Yeah. Geez, I forgot about that that particular passage.
Well, obviously, you wrote the book probably around the lockdown time.
It was during summer of 2020,
and you got it published on Zero. Was Doug still there, or was it you were in the in between stage? You were one of those guys that got caught up.
Yeah, that was the. I think he left right as it was like the wheels were in motion. It was when the kind of, because I'm pretty sure they switched it like right around the time, right before it got published.
You were the guys that got caught. We call it like the guys that got caught up, which really sucks. Some books didn't get pushed more than others, and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it, you know,
I was caught up.
Zero is based out of the UK anyway, so it's also like, you know, trying to get a hold of your publisher is
Yeah.
difficult, and you know, also trying to do book promotion stuff is difficult.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was pretty. I hope I don't offend anyone, but it was pretty much just me doing it.
It happens. I mean, again, small publisher. You know, it
Yeah.
happens. Gene Bajlan is watching the show, making fun of my glasses. Don't
I
make
love
fun of
the
my
glasses.
glasses, Gene. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, last night they said I had girl boss glasses. First and foremost, I want to let people know that the book you write, you pretty much go through your year's lesson plan in your journalism class. Now, is this an elective at the school, or is this just part of the English curriculum?
Well, so at the school I started in, um, it was a it was I was teaching it as a just a regular English class, but
Okay.
that was a double-edged sword because that was a public charter school, where some crazy stuff happened. Uh, so now it is just an elective. I mean, I do incorporate some of this stuff into regular ed classes, some of the critical thinking stuff in particular. But yeah, so it's kind of gone both ways, and I've kind of had to adjust it through the years. It's a better class now than it was when I first wrote it.
I mean, when I was reading, I was like, oh, this guy's actually putting kind of his whole syllabus and plan out there, you know. Not to say that you were afraid someone was going to bite it, because I'm sure you want people to kind of replicate this.
Oh, I'd
But
love it. Yeah,
but
I-
it's, to me, it's ballsy in the sense of, I know you wrote it during the transition of Trump to Biden, not knowing what was going to happen in the like 3 or 4 years after, and this kind of attack on, I want to say, real left thinking. And you talk about in this book this idea that Democrats are the left, and you know that's not true, right? We have two shades of the right. But saying I'm a Marxist, I mean, you published this on a very like Marxist theory publisher. It's a little scarier now, especially that the Donald is saying he wants to kind of fight a war against the indoctrination of children. How do you feel about that? Because you're teaching at the high school level, which really is indoctrination. You're really teaching everybody how to, you know, just snip their junk off, you know.
yeah,
Just
totally.
go full in both feet.
Drag queens
Yeah,
doing story time or
I'm sure you're
whatever.
just bringing drag queens in for PE.
That's all we do. In my class too, that's all we do is just drag queens, just parade around.
Just a parade of drag queens.
That's basically if that's the cliff notes of the book, is I just bring drag queens in. It's so sick.
Are you a little worried at this point? Like, how do you feel about this idea of indoctrination?
Well, I mean, if we think about like growing up in a school where we've all people uh my age, older, probably I mean probably people of all ages have been indoctrinated already. Like the rah rah USA is never wrong.
Mhm.
Revolution is good when American colonists do it, but not, for example, when people can't see that like uh, other forms of rebellion are a good thing. Like it's already happened. Like
Mhm.
we already see indoctrination in schools. That's why I emphasize so much like the stuff on emphasis and bias, because we've like like I just simply emphasize that like you said, I don't one of the big points that I try to drive home is like Joe Biden is not a leftist. He's not
Yeah.
a Marxist. He's not, no matter how much Trump wants to say that.
Mhm.
And the basic fact is like telling the truth about something should that be seen as indoctrination or just telling the truth? I feel like we're almost, by telling the truth, you're almost, um, it's not indoctrination because it's kind of getting past the indoctrination that's already been there. If
Well,
that makes
let's expand on that because that's a question I have a little further down the list. But F it, we're calling an audible.
sure.
Um, there is this. There's everyone has their own truth, right? I'm living my truth.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm single. Is because if someone says they're living their truth on a dating profile, I don't. That is ridiculous to me. Like, fuck does that mean? It just,
Yeah.
you know. How do you? And this is even popular with even younger people, right? This idea that there's my opinion, my facts.
Yeah.
How do you try to parse through that? Because you do talk about this in the book a bit, about kind of that fallacy, right? That we all have our own opinions, and that's what makes America great. And you talk about it in the sense of Ellen DeGeneres and
Yeah.
George Bush.
Oh yeah.
That was actually one of my. I think that was my first show.
Yeah.
This is Revolution episode 1 was about Ellen DeGeneres and George Bush in
Oh,
class.
nice.
But
Yeah.
you talk about it because the way it was portrayed in the news, if people remember, was don't get mad at Ellen for being friends with George Bush because he's on the other team.
Yeah.
They have different opinions, and you can have friends with different opinions.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can, I guess,
sure,
you
sure.
can, but
I have friends that are Dodger fans, but but
it oh, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
no, 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 no. You please go ahead.
What it does is like it just zaps the whole notion of like believing in something. Like people objected to that friendship, not because it's like people were hell bent on saying you should hate people with the other opinion, but specifically because George W. Bush is a liar, a war criminal, a monster. He's a horrible human being. And that's why Ellen DeGeneres should have a little more sense than to, uh, parade around with him. It's just like most recently, it's like you just see openly that like right after the Democrats sort of campaign on we've got to avoid the next Hitler, Barack Obama is just broing out with the guy at Jimmy Carter's funeral. So it's like it's just out in the open that like, oh, okay, that wasn't true, or to whatever degree they believed that, which I would assume is not that they didn't believe that. If they're going to pal around with Hitler, it just renders it a total joke. It's sick, really. I mean, it's just out in the open that
Mhm.
like they don't really believe these things, and all of this stuff just kind of all of these notions of civility, decency, above all, it just zaps the process of like coming up with your own beliefs, your own things that you think about, that you care about, that you value.
Mhm.
And I don't know. That's what drives me nuts, I guess.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is frustrating because I do think people really believe. I mean, look, I understand you can have your own opinion, right? We can have opinions about things, right? I can think that uh, the Dio years of Sabbath are some of the greatest albums that
Yeah.
Sabbath ever produced, and someone else can feel that no, 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 it was the Ian Gillan years of Sabbath
Yeah.
where they really hit their peak. Those are opinions, right?
Right.
But the fact that one president is legitimately a war criminal is a fact,
Right.
right?
And it's
And
a
I don't
fact that she's friends with him and proud of it.
proud of it.
So it's like that's the thing. Like again, that fact is what people take issue with. But
Mhm.
then they just ignore that fact and are like, "Oh, you are such a jerk for not valuing the these two reaching across the aisle and being buddies, which is all liberals care about, is being nice to each other, avoiding confrontation, avoiding any sort of meaning, and just look, we're friends with who we just said was Hitler. It's wild. It's wild.
You know, the largest anti-war protest in history happened because this guy wanted to start a war, but he's got free tickets to the Rangers game, and it's a box. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Now, in your introduction of your book, you mentioned how public schools often fail to prepare students to critically evaluate power structures. What are some practical ways educators can address this gap without facing backlash for being, as you say in the book, too political?
You know, I think one really good way, and I hope this isn't like, I don't know, not political. Like this is not super political. I don't think this answer, but like not being a hard ass is a great way to do that.
Mhm.
Like I show these kids every day with kind of a warm demeanor, a warm disposition. I'm not gonna. I mean, I had a teacher when I was in 7th grade who would give a detention, like if you dropped your fucking pencil on the floor. Like I remember he made like multiple like really nice young ladies cry because he gave them a detention for dropping a pencil. And I
Jesus.
think just like not being an authoritarian psycho and like showing them what like maybe a good boss would be to work for someday, or a reasonable person to work with, goes a long way. Like that alone is a good thing. Um, I think another thing is like, again, you have to just be ready to defend what you're doing. If it's true, I say it is okay to be in the classroom. If it's something that happened that is a basic fact, it belongs in in the classroom, and you cannot do both sides to a fact. Like, uh, am I supposed to do something that public school has decided upon? For example, is that all races are equal, which obviously is a good thing, but that
Sure.
is a subjective opinion. You don't have to think that way, but it's a damn good thing that a public school does. We have made that political calculation. That's something that we've already decided to do. Thank God. So why not also add like, hey, the climate is being destroyed.
Mhm.
Can't we put that out there? Can't we say that this is going on? Can't we point out that rather than improve school lunch, rather than improve the school that we're sitting in, we're sending billions of dollars for a genocide?
Mhm.
Like these are things that are going on, and you can't say that they're not. It's at the end of the day, it's either you want to tell the truth or you want to protect people's sensibilities. And to me, obviously telling the truth is the thing that you have to do if you want anything to change.
Well, let me ask you this,
Obviously, it
Sam.
has to.
Let me ask you this, Sam. I'm sure you have students that have to ask you about Israel Palestine because it is kind of hard to avoid. Even mainstream media talks about it in a way I've never really seen it in my
Yeah,
lifetime.
yeah.
Um, how do you explain power structures and also try to prevent being too political? Because I'm sure you're going to catch hell from a principal or a superintendent at some point, especially if you're talking Israel Palestine. Or is that something that you guys don't really talk about?
No, I mean, I would mostly save that for an elective.
Gotcha.
I might have mentioned it when we read 1984, and I'll tell you, I know 1984 gets some flack for some leftists, but I, I also like Parable of the Sower, but like 1984 is a pretty good book to assess power structures. I think, and maybe
Okay.
some will disagree with that, but I think it's a pretty good way to sort of point out that there are, in many ways, arbitrary hierarchies. We can talk about what those are in our world. Kids know. that it's rich people that are controlling everything. I mean, they know that that's a thing. And it's one of those books that it's like you can't really uh, get rid of it, because it's like one of those things that's entrenched in the public school. Uh, so that's to me, that's a pretty good way to assess power structures. As an English teacher in particular, is teaching just 1984 from a reasonable lens, while you're also kind of connecting it to things that are going on.
Can you give me an
Like,
example?
what is someone going to say to that? Like, we want to ban 1984. I mean, it's like that then I just don't see it happening. I just don't see that happening. Like someone going after that book, where that's the whole point, is like, so you're going to ban 1984. It would just be a bad look for somebody.
We're going to take you to a land called Florida, and then you can.
No, I mean, I get it. I am in Maine. I used to work with a guy from Tennessee, and he just said, like, you couldn't get away with this stuff down there, and I totally understand that. I know that this is easy for me to say in the Northeast compared to down there, where they can barely teach even the basic stuff with race relations and things like this. So,
Well, can you give me an example of how you would try to use 1984 to explain power structures?
Well, I mean, okay, so I haven't I'm getting into this this year, so it's been about a year since I taught it. But when you get into, like, um for example, like, I don't I have mostly freshmen, so I
Awesome.
so I actually don't give them, like, I don't make them read the book sometimes. You know what I'm talking about, the book within the book.
Mhm.
But that book within the book uh, says a lot about spending lots of money on weapons and war. It says a lot about the high and the low, and replacing the high. Uh, and again, like, if you can, like, sort of ask them, okay, how does this look for us? How does this look at the workplace? Um, like something that I kind of show them with 1984 is, like, I've in some years shown them, like, the Manhattan garbage sanitation workers strike,
Okay.
where it's like they brought the city to their knees, to its knees, in like a matter of, like, what, 6 days or something, because they were not taking uh, the trash out, and because they wanted better pay, they wanted better benefits, and it's like that. They needed those people to do that. They needed those bodies to uh, take out the trash, or else it was going to be like a state of emergency, which it was. And you can kind of point that out with, like, any of the big workplaces. We talk about maybe like an Amazon warehouse,
Mhm.
the type of working conditions that they're in, and, like, you can basically, you can just ask them, like, could Jeff Bezos pull this off without all these people doing it?
Mhm.
And it doesn't take a genius to say, well, no, of course not. And I think that alone, I also show them, like, there's a great clip of Richard Wolff explaining capitalism, and he uses, like, a chair, and he just points out that, like, to make this chair, you need natural resources, you need labor, and then you have the chair. And where does that surplus go? Does it go to the employer? Does it go to the capitalist? And to me, you can very easily bring in these kind of basic lessons on how power works. And capitalism is another thing that it's like, do we just want to continue to not name it, or do we want to talk about what it is and how it works? So I don't know. I hope that answers the question, but that's kind of a way that I would try to point out power structures, and how people use power all the time, how it's wielded by workers and how it's wielded by the capitalist, and to try to just show that it's a natural thing that butts heads in this world. and to keep it in mind, because guess what? You kids are going to be working in a matter of years.
For a capitalist in a capitalist system.
Yeah, like 98% of them are going to be working for someone else, probably more than that.
And 2% are going to a commune somewhere.
Well,
or they're just inherited wealth. 2% is just inherited wealth.
Yeah, inherit wealth, or maybe they'll start the next Amazon. Maybe they'll.
Oh wow, yeah, maybe that. and then there's that. You argue that, and I can't disagree with this, that America political spectrum is skewed to the right, even in so-called liberal spaces. How does this distortion affect students' understanding of politics, and how can educators expose them to genuinely leftist perspectives?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what I said, like just like one thing that I do in the journalism class is I show them. We're all familiar with the political compass, which it's useful to sort of just kind of say that, like, these are some ideas. These left and right ideas are again fairly objective things that we're talking about. Like the left is objectively this, the right is objectively this, and to make it clear that, like, the Democrats are not leftists. To point out, like, I have a friend in Norway who once told me that, like, Bernie Sanders there would be a moderate right wing politician based on how they do things there. And I think just pointing that stuff out, talking about how other countries work, talking about how healthcare systems work, what is provided to people in other places. I think it really gets their wheels turning, getting them to think about, 4 to 8 weeks off guaranteed in Norway. I mentioned sometimes, I talk, I'm a dad. I have a 4-year-old, and just talking about just the insanity of the healthcare system, how it's like you're paying $15,000 out of pocket. It would be $200 in Norway at most.
Mhm.
Just letting them know that, like, hey, this is going on elsewhere in the world. Doesn't need to be this way. I think starts to get their wheels turning. And again, these are just basic facts. Am I not supposed to say these things because it's too political? What does too political even mean? It could, to me, that charge could be wielded against anyone for any reason. So again, if it's true, it should be on the table. And what is so bad about getting kids to think
Mhm.
about a better healthcare system, for example? Is that so
Do you
crazy?
think I was thinking about this when I was reading your book, because I just finished a book. Where is it? I can't see the title of it. I forget what it's called. It's on my bed. I can't see it. It's written by a guy named Jeff Cohen. I don't know if you remember him. He was the head of FAIR. This is an older book from like 2005. Which
Oh
sounds,
yeah, he was in Outfoxed. Yeah, I think
yes, he was in
yeah,
Outfox. He's
yeah,
a big part of Outfox. He actually
yeah.
ended up being Donahue's producer. So the whole book is about working on the inside of cable media, and his whole thing is, and this was 20 years ago, and it's funny because when people talk about MSNBC and CNN, they talk about the Democratic Party, and then Fox is the Republican Party. But in his book, he's like, no, all this is like far right wing.
Yeah.
And they were trying to make Phil Donahue a right winger. There was actually a whole plan for a right wing pivot, and they had all these rules that if you brought anybody like Amy Goodman in the show, he had to have like 3 other right wing people to oppose whatever viewpoint she had. It's a pretty interesting, even though it's quite dated, because a lot of it is about the people beating the drums of war to go into Afghanistan.
Yeah. He got fired. Donahue got fired.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah, yeah,
But and it was the highest rated show on a station that was the
right.
lowest of the 3 cables, but still the highest rated show there. But and he really, like I said, he gets into the weeds there. But in looking at your book when you're talking about teaching the kids kind of like media bias and objectivity, I definitely thought of it because again, I just finished this book, and I've also been working for the last couple of years on this whole thing about the way we digest media and pro wrestling and all this other fun stuff. It's called kayfabe.
Nice.
I thought it was interesting how you're trying to get kids to understand objectivity in journalism. I think it's the first chapter you introduced that concept of objectivity, and later complicated by discussing bias and omission. How do you teach students to recognize bias without falling into the trap of cynicism or apathy?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will do a little brag here that like I just mentioned the Phil Donahue thing to my
Oh, no
third
shit.
class. Yeah, and they I said, so what filter is this? And several of them,
Mhm,
able to, from manufacturing consent,
mhm.
several of them said, well, probably the ownership filter. They probably got him out of there because the higher ups didn't like what he was saying. So
Yeah.
that was nice that they were able to put that into use. Okay, so what was the general gist of that question? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, the bias
Yeah,
and
yeah,
object.
yeah, yeah, media bias, yeah, yeah. Because
Yeah. So,
I think the greatest marketing for media that's changed the way we even understand media is fair and balanced.
oh God,
Fox
yeah,
saying fair and balanced,
it's
game
insane.
over.
It's crazy
Everything's gotta be fair and
because,
balanced.
and that that is also like this changed in the press and this changed in public schools. Like public schools used to have a more um like measured approach. Like what sort of things do we want to teach, like beyond just the most general basic stuff like reading, writing, and math and stuff? Like there was more thought on like what are we going to teach. Same with publications. It was like they, from what I understand, Bob McChesney, I think his name is, another Outfoxed a guy that was in Outfoxed, wrote a great book about this. How like publications in the past would sort of openly say like this is what we believe in the same way that a lot of leftist publications do.
Mhm,
But the problem is like you take like a New York Times, the paper of record, where they pretend to be this objective source, and they're not. And this is another reason why it's like, what is the problem again with me as a teacher admitting that I have a bias? Should I be up there saying I have no bias? I'm perfectly giving this to you, all sides of the story. I know everything. I am an arbiter of truth. Uh, no, like I have my own biases. I have my own things that I've encountered and plenty that I haven't. So to try to impress upon them that this sort of bias, this sort of fake objectivity is everywhere, I think is very important, including, uh, I'm sure people are familiar with this media bias chart. Ad Fontes, I think is who puts it out, and it's crazy. Like it's like it has Jimmy Dore as like this leftist on the thing, and it's like, okay, why? Because he said why? What is even the rationale that? Well, I know what it is. They have like three people assess, uh, a few articles or pieces of content from each thing, and then they talk about it. And the problem is like anything else, they have someone who's supposedly left,
mhm.
whatever their definition of that is, supposedly right, and then this magical thing, someone in the center. I actually had the guy who was in the center. I think I was on Nathan Robinson's podcast,
Nathan
Current
Robinson was
Affairs.
in the center?
No, it wasn't. No,
Oh,
I was
I
on
was
his.
gonna say.
Sorry, my mind's going a mile a minute. I was on Current Affairs podcast, and I was talking about how ridiculous this whole notion of like this media bias chart saying, oh, we've got this guy in the center who's just perfectly in the center, sort of monitoring how these sources are. And because like, what does that even mean? And I'll point you to Dead Center by Luke Savage on that. Um, like, what does it mean to be in the center? And the guy actually ended up emailing me and kind of like scolding me and like he was like advocating that he is truly in the center. And it's like,
That's
what is
that's the position. If you really want to know, like people always talk about, like, so and so sold out, so and so's making a pivot, and I'm like, you you know what makes more money than me and you fucking talking about kids learning how to read media shit is if I sat here and talked about horror movies.
yeah.
Those guys make legitimate
Or
6 to 7 figures.
Jason, or if you sat there and talked about how fossil fuel companies aren't so bad and how you just work hard and you'll be rich someday, or buy
Sure.
up a bunch of
If
investors.
I found
That's how you
some
make a bunch of money.
if I found some woman and I was like, "Hey, fucking woman, don't you want to fuck me? And you guys want to fuck this chick too? I'll tell you how to fuck chicks like this all day long."
Yeah.
Wait, but to do that, if I just changed on a dime, whatever I'm doing now, I'm going to lose, and I have to hope that I start appearing in an algorithm for all the people that want to find out how to fuck whoever I'm got on the screen. And it's not that fucking simple. But it's this idea that I am the center.
Yeah.
Because I am the truth. And I realized that when I saw, and I don't think people would believe this, because if you watch shows like, and I'm friends with Sam Cedar, the Majority Report, they would call Tim Pool a right winger, and I wouldn't disagree. But when you hear him talk, because my friend Ben Burgess was doing a debate with him in New York a few years back, and we were all there. And when you hear him talk, he goes, "I am neither left nor right."
Yeah.
I
He's just calling balls and strikes.
Yeah, I understand both, and I give you the real truth. And people were sitting there like, right on. Like you just hear the fucking erections and the fucking, yeah, right on. And Tulsi Gabbard was there, so it was like double erections, like right on.
Yeah, I remember listening to that. She said like nothing the whole time, as I recall.
She said she like turned around and she had some she had these jeans that were like really, and I shouldn't sound like I'm shitting on Tulsi Gabbard.
Why not?
I totally would have smashed. I would have smashed. I was telling Ben to hook me up. He was being a fucking hater. But she's thick, and she turned around. She turned around, and the whole crowd, this dude started screaming. She just turned around to sit down.
Oh yeah.
It was like, oh god, this is just gross. But
the Tim Pool crowd. That doesn't sound like
hella. Nobody was there for Ben Bird. Ben walked in to a lion's den.
Yeah, and, I remember that.
Yeah, if you listen real close, you can hear me and Kuba like yelling and shit from the from the rafters. But this idea that these guys are, I don't think anybody there that was a Tim Pool fan thought of themselves as a conservative or a right winger. If anything, what was surprising when it was over, Ben just like walked through the crowd. He just like walked. He didn't go out the back or anything. He just walked through, right? Yeah. Because we were all supposed to meet up, and he meets us in this lobby. And we're all kind of like, fired up and kind of pissed off. And all these people are walking up to him that are Tim Pool fans, or what's the other guy? Schultz. Is his name Andrew Schultz? Is that his name? He's got a comedian. He was there. Destiny was there. Like all the people you would like never want to hang out with.
All the dipshits.
Yeah, they were all there. And so everybody there was a fan of these people. And
Christ.
And mind you, Tulsi Gabbard was on Ben's side because she's a leftist.
Yeah, right. Of course.
They were coming to Ben and they were like, "You said things and made me think about things differently." And I really appreciate that. I would say, like, no bullshit, there was like 5 dudes that came up to him and said that, which was, for me, it was like shocking to see.
Yeah.
But to have some time to think about it, you go, oh, it's because they look at Tim Pool as the moral center. He's the arbiter of truth. He is neither left nor right.
Right. It's a sneaky thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And effective. It's effective. Ben Shapiro does the same thing. He's just calling balls and strikes. He's the cool kids philosopher. You know, according to the Marxist New York Times, he's the cool kids philosopher. This sniveling little shithead who, you know, clearly has a ideological bent, and they claim otherwise. It's very sneaky, and it's like, if you are telling me to not be political in the classroom and to pretend like I'm just an arbiter of truth, I think that is a terrible thing to demand. Why can't we just be honest about what we believe in? Kids are smart. They can hear stuff. Like I can say, I could go in there and say literally whatever I wanted. I'm not going to be able to convince them, even if I were trying to like do that on hyperdrive. Like, they have their own biases and notions coming in. I think that people who think that you can just indoctrinate a bunch of kids, it's easier said than done, I would say. Even if you were really trying to do that, like, kids have their own thoughts. Like, it's not as easy as just, I don't know. Kids are savvy. They can hear a lot of different things and kind of make up their own mind. So that's why I think just like exposing them to different things is incredibly helpful. Just letting them know that certain things go on, because the fact is a lot of the stuff that we believe in on the left side, we are right. Things would be better if we did things a different way. And these dumbasses like Tim Pool and Shapiro sneakily fashioning themselves in the center, those poor guys who went up to Ben Burgess, at least they admitted that, like, at least they were being thoughtful. At least they were open to hearing what he had to say. And who knows, maybe they started a new journey that day.
I don't know. I don't know if Ben has enough hot chicks on for him. I don't think Tim Pool does either.
Doubtful.
So there's that.
I mean, doesn't he say that all the time? He's always whining that doesn't he always whine that he's I don't know.
He whines that he's an incel?
Yeah. Or maybe he's proud of it. I don't know.
That's gross. I'm surprised there hasn't been hate on the thing I said about Tulsi Gabbard, but that's fine. Apparently everybody agrees with me. That's just how I'm going to look at it. I feel like it's easy to come up to a cat like him, though, and say that was interesting, because in that setting, the way they tried to do it was, you really were in the marketplace of ideas. You were seeing ideas being traded in the market. And I really think that's how people saw it. Granted that there were legitimate fans. It wasn't just Tim Pool. It was the guy that does Project Veritas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Someone said to Ben Burgess. No. No. I would assume that someone like that is not trying to bang people that rent. And I get it. You're a climber. You're a social climber. That's it's really gonna fuck up your social status. James O'Keefe, Dig Dug. Yeah, that's his name.
Yes, yeah,
James O'Keefe. Yeah, sure.
Really
That
cool.
guy's dude was kind of scummy.
Oh,
He was like legitimately like, oh, you're kind of fucking scuzzy.
yeah.
You do have a chapter on corporate media that highlights its role in shaping narratives. Recently today, Antony Blinken's last day, a bunch of people actually had some very harsh words, deserving harsh words for Antony Blinken. And
civility's dead, Jason. Oh, God, the horror. Oh.
Is that something you would show your class, to show them media bias? Because I think nothing changes a framing. There's a few things in my lifetime that I've seen change people's perspective in real time. Number one was I remember coming home from a tour and Occupy was going on in San Francisco, and they had shut down access to like a Bank of America or something like that in downtown San Francisco. And I was kind of impressed by it, and it was pretty cool. And at the time, I was living with a family that was not my own, who was very conservative. And when the news was talking about this being shut down and all this news or this rhetoric of we are the 99%, they were very much in agreement with that.
Hmm.
They agreed that there were greedy elites. They agreed that greedy elites didn't pay their fair share. All that made sense. I would say maybe 1 or 2 days later, the media narrative changed from we are the 99% to these people are coming to San Francisco and these encampments are filled with homeless people and there's violence and they're going to cost the city so much money because they're just dumping trash everywhere. And this is a problem. And their attitude changed. No longer were they in line with this idea, this ideology, if you will, that there are elites that rule the world and there's more of us that are, getting the shit into the stick. It was these people are fucking up everything. And it really changed the way they looked. Go ahead.
And lying about it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then this whole thing where you have a guy like Anthony Blinken who been covering up these horrible lies about what's really going on. And finally, these reporters, I guess reporters have been trying to say things for so long. I was surprised they let Blumenthal in the room. When I saw Blumenthal in the room, I was like, oh, wow, I guess last day they said, fuck it. And, you see these people getting carried off, and then CNN goes, there were hecklers there. Because heckling is very different from even saying someone had a political protest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, totally.
To change that around, especially if most people don't really know people see dead kids and they care about that, but a lot of people don't really know, oh, this is a war that's been going on for 1,000,000 trillion years because it's just religious. Which I'm sure you get in your classroom. Well, I don't know what's going on with their teaching.
Yeah.
Like to see cable news shift the narrative so quickly. And it can work on some people, not people that watch shows like this.
Right.
But if you're watching Colbert, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, maybe you're listening to Pod Save America and Michael Moore and stuff like that. That idea of a heckler definitely, I think, carries some weight.
Yeah.
So would you use a situation like that to explain media bias to your students?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would definitely use a situation like that. I mean, I showed them, we delved deep into in the elective, in the journalism elective this year, we delved deep into the stuff in Gaza. I had kids in tears when I showed them The Night Won't End. It was a powerful class. And I showed them how I showed them some headlines when Hind Rajab was killed. They knew the story. They knew what happened. And to see, headlines like 6-year-old dies, they know. They know that that's a terrible, just absurd way to word that. They know what happened. And when they see that it was worded in this just disgusting, callous, monstrous way, that sweet little girl, they could tell. They could tell that, okay, this is the sort of thing that can happen. And hopefully they'll remember that when they go to hear other narratives. Maybe some of them saw that this that Blinken got so-called heckled today, and maybe they know why. Maybe they know why that this just piece of shit of a human being had a hard time. The poor guy. It's really something to take what that guy did, and the takeaway is, oh, look at the civility out the window. It's like, yeah, try being on the ground in Gaza. It's just appalling. It's just appalling. But again, to get back to the whole liberal mindset, that's the most important thing, is that you reach across the aisle, that you don't offend anyone, that you don't really believe in anything. Listen to Obama's playlist and on Spotify and move on.
What's on Obama's playlist?
I am sure something for everybody.
I don't. There's this much of me that wants to see what's on Obama's playlist. I'm really effing tempted to pull it up, but I don't want to see what's on Obama's playlist because I believe it's a lie. Whatever's on his playlist is a lie.
Some of his movies. I listened to the Stevie Wonder podcast that he put out, and man, it was. I love Stevie Wonder. So
with Stevie Wonder.
What's that?
With Stevie Wonder?
Unfortunately, he interjected himself in there toward the end, and that's when I stopped listening. I just didn't want to hear what his dumbass had to say, but it was pretty good prior to that. Then there's that other movie he put out. Did you see that?
Which one? The I almost said Medgar Evers. The almost said Langston Hughes. I'm thinking of all the wrong black people right now. Bayard Rustin.
It's the one. It's I can't think of the name of it. Leave the world behind. Maybe it's basically like we don't do anything wrong here in America. I don't know.
The movie. Not the historical movie. No. Yeah. I don't have Netflix.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, totally.
And I have missed Obama's his producer turn, which I think is what he really wanted to be, was a culture war champion.
Yeah.
He talked about it while he was in office, about winning the culture war. Or Michelle, I can't remember which one said that was the important playing field was through the culture wars. And I believe he believes that. I really do legitimately believe he believes that. And I think they lost, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because the drivel that's come out after everybody got their George Floyd BLM money has been a bit of a travesty. Like, American Fiction was an opportunity to make an amazing movie that really highlights class contradictions within the black community, but instead it becomes a liberal comedy that white people get to be in on the joke with. And I just didn't dig it, especially because the book is so good.
Yeah,
that's a book to teach those kids. Don't teach those kids that book. I think there's too much fucking in that book.
Yeah. I gotta read that book. I've heard good things.
It's dated. Part of it is somewhat dated. I think it came out like something. It's in the early 2000s, but which was another reason why I thought that movie was kind of past a certain due date for black cultural consumption, because it's a movie that I think Negroes have finally got beyond. And we're on Wakanda, man. This is Afrofuturism. Our spears are in outer space. God damn it. So I just lost all 8 of the black viewers with that one. Before you go, I do want to ask you about conspiracy theories.
Sure.
There are things that people think are conspiracy theories that is just public information. And then there are conspiracy theories. I don't know what's worse. How do you deal with conspiracy theories in high school students? And also, let me ask you this. How entrenched are young people in certain conspiracy theories?
Yeah. Um, I mean, how entrenched they are, I don't know. They're honestly, they're not like a lot of kids are just not super. They don't care very much. They're often quite apathetic about the state of things, and I can't say I blame them. But as far as conspiracies and conspiracy theories go, we're in the we're wrapping that up right now, and the big emphasis, it's probably basic and obvious, but is evidence, and again, evidence and facts, and it's like the thing that I try to drive home is like, what a waste of time to go on about some just nonsense
Mhm.
when you can look at the basic reality and get plenty bent out of shape and outraged about that. Uh, the one that I always go to, and I teach this. This is one of the regular ed examples. Is like, and again with 1984 is like and as Martin Luther King Day coming up, is I show them like the story of Fred Hampton. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not made up in some by some random guy on YouTube. Like this is what happened. Like they killed this awesome guy who I think could have potentially changed things in a significant way. The FBI killed him just as they were spying on King, telling him to kill himself. Like this happened. This stuff actually happened. It would probably it probably still is going on. It would not shock me at all, but obviously harder to even gain such momentum in the era that we're in. I just try to say, to answer your question, I just try to say like we know that this happened because we've seen the evidence. There was that break in to FBI headquarters where they got all of this, uh, all the documents and things like this that we know about COINTELPRO. We know that this happened, and we know that that was the uh, objective of the government was to make sure that power stayed where it was, and it was not allowed for these excellent black leaders to begin to bring people together of all races and try to change things. It was not allowed. Why would you want to waste your time saying that whatever, as much as horrible as Dick Cheney is, that he went and put bombs in the World Trade Center when this sort of thing is going on? Like when the basic reality of what happened after 9/11 is bad enough, it's horrible enough what happened. Why waste your time with the baseless conspiracy theories? And that's kind of what I try to drive home to them. Is like the reality is even possibly even worse than these half baked theories.
I recently was in. I had to take an Uber back to the border recently, and I'm a chatty Cathy, as you can imagine, in every situation I'm in. And my Uber driver was asking me questions about, do I live in Mexico and blah blah blah, because she's dropping this colored guy off at the border at like 2 a.m. So she's like, "Are you really going down there to bang hookers at 2 a.m.? Because you might have a problem." I'm not going. I'm going home. And so she was talking about her life, and she was from a place called Mexicali, which is literally the capital of northern Baja, where I live. It's east of me. And she was talking about how she was homeless for a minute, and she felt that Venezuelan refugees got better treatment than someone like herself that had been in the United States for over 20 years, had been a contributing member of society, had kids who were contributing members of society, but had fallen on hard times, and there was no aid for her, yet there was aid for these people. And that for me is a bigger conspiracy theory, quotation marks, to fight than even the bigger ones that we see online and we may hear people talk about at the water cooler or wherever in our jobs, are these ideas that there's someone getting more than you.
Yeah.
And that actually had political ramifications in
Yeah.
places like Chicago. It definitely had political ramifications in this past election. It extremely had political ramifications in somewhere where I live or I'm from, like San Francisco, where a extremely tough on crime mayor like London Breed loses the mayoral race to a self-proclaimed tougher on crime billionaire after crime rates were lowered to like 20-year lows in San Francisco just because she wanted to arrest everybody. And I listened to the lady talk and I was like, okay. I was like, well, don't you think it's effed up that there's just not a social safety net for you in America? Like there should be benefits for everybody. And you're mad at people that are getting temporary benefits. Like it's not forever. And it was like the first time someone ever told that to her.
That what she said.
She was like, oh. I was like, it's all gets cut off after a certain amount of time. I was like, in Chicago, where they got what, like 30,000 refugees, their homeless population tripled. Yeah. Because you don't have enough money. These states just don't have enough money. You will not be able to do it for forever.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, that something like that is, and another one that like you know, another one like that, like something that's just kind of in plain sight that that a lot of people just take to be true all the time is like Russiagate. Like that's a whole conspiracy theory as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a joke. Like it's a total joke. It's a way of not dealing with the problem. Why is Trump there? Oh, Russia fooled everyone. Like that's the analysis is like, yep, he's there because Russia made a bunch of memes and people minds were controlled. It's crazy. Like and you're right. Like those ones that are kind of less cartoonish, they are conspiracy theories. There's no basis, and they seep their way into public consciousness thanks to a media that enables them, and political parties that also peddle these nonsensical stories.
Do you have kids? I don't know what the racial makeup of your school is, but do you have a lot of kids that would fall prey to something like that? Like immigrants are getting all the benefits while real Americans suffer.
I've been hearing a lot of immigrant talk this year, and in my regular ed class, we're going to get into. I teach a book called "Rising Out of Hatred," which is about a reformed white nationalist, and he has a friend from Peru in that book that he meets, who's an immigrant, and I will use that opportunity as we read that book to talk with these guys about why do these people come to this country? Are they just here to troll people? Or is there a reason they uprooted their lives and moved somewhere else? Would you guys want to do that? Would you want to uproot your lives? What would cause you to do that? And we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about the 2018 caravan that of people who were from countries that, lo and behold, the U.S. was involved with in regime changes and coups and all these different things. You know, that's why, in many cases, why they come here is because there was meddling going on that did not pan out the way, but maybe it was intentional, or maybe it truly was a mistake. I have my doubts, but there's reasons these people make their way up here, and it's is it really to just piss people off, or are they just good, decent people looking for a better life because something happened where they lived?
Yeah. That's the hard part. I mean, I did in my 20-minute ride home, I did try to explain that, there's political destabilization that is done by the United States. I found a clip from a news program from where I'm from in the Bay Area from like 83. And there were these priests talking about taking in El Salvadorian refugees in the Bay Area and Cambodia, or no, I'm sorry. I think El Salvadorian, like Cambodian refugees. And someone in the audience, white lady, got mad, and she was like, what about the homeless Americans?
Of course. And had you been talking about homeless Americans, it would be, what about the kids who are getting trafficked? Like, and if you're talking about the homeless kids getting trafficked, it would be, what about the drag queens at the school?
Swinging their dicks all over the... Everybody thinks drag queens are just like fucking, double dutching dicks. Just...
Oh yeah, big dick swinging, baby.
Right? They're not, and that would be weird if they were. It would take away from the show.
If their fantasies were real.
Yeah. It's like, is that what you guys want to see?
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Tim Pool's wet dream.
That's what he's doing right now. He's beanie-less at the sodomy club down the way in TJ, watching the double dutch. Now that I've made sure this show is unmonetizable, just had to make sure.
Sorry for my role in that.
No, you know what? They fucking demonetized one of Ben's, or a couple of Ben's, philosophy shows that he does on here. He's definitely not talking about banging Tulsi Gabbard and dicks on that.
No.
At all.
No.
At all. And if you're going to ban that, well, fucking let me lean into being a degenerate.
Yeah, totally. We can't all be the cool kids philosopher.
No. No. We can't.
Unfortunately.
Well, apparently they said the link was dead, so I did put the correct link in the chat, and I will go back. I'll put it in the chat once again to your book, and I will go back and correct that. So wherever you are watching or listening to the show, there's links in the description to Sam's book. Sam, where else can we see you? What are you working on? Tell us. Let me add this. I forgot to add this. I did put a picture of you playing the guitar because you are a musician. So before we go, please tell us about your music. I'll shut up.
Oh, great. Yeah. So I play mostly with my band, the Scolded Dogs, and, we have a good time. Fun stuff. You will move your ass if you see us. But my most recent music thing is a folk album I put out. It's just me and a guitar. My dad's on it a little bit, playing harmonica. And one of my friend's kids is on to sing a song about Hind Rajab that I encourage everybody to listen to. I'm particularly proud of that song. It follows a song about my son that I think it hits pretty hard, if I do say so myself. And it's got some kind of good protest songs on there. I was trying to get that folk spirit back up. It's anywhere you find music. And I know that, like, when I listen to or watch a movie or have something with some leftist proclivities, it's always nice to see, because it's not everywhere that you can find that type of art, and it's kind of nice to run into that once in a while. So yeah, I encourage people to check that out too.
Do you have any shows coming up?
We play first Friday of every month at Easy Street Lounge, Hollowell, Maine. It's a hell of a spot. If anyone's in Maine, hit me up, baby. You know.
There's more Mainers than you think.
Yeah, and it's a great. I love Maine. I'm a proud Mainer. It's a good
You're from
spot.
Maine, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's great. The summers are lovely. It's a chill spot. We're cool people up here.
Well, there you go. I don't remember if I put a link to your music, but if you want to send me one, I'll definitely put because I have to correct the book link. I'll definitely put a link up to your music as well.
Sure. Thank you.
I definitely enjoy getting my $20 a quarter from Spotify.
Yeah, totally.
I hope everybody gets their $20 a quarter from Spotify.
Yeah,
I mean, you're playing live, so you can sell physical things at a. I haven't played live in 5 years. So
not as much.
Like,
I ask people, "Do you have a CD player anymore?" And they are like, "What are you talking about, bro?"
You haven't done that.
I have all these CDs, you know.
You didn't pay like $4,000 to press 200 vinyl?
Oh no, I have not done that yet. We'll
don't
see.
do it. As a matter, don't do it. Look at my face. Don't do it.
Yeah, I believe it. It's a tough game, as I know you know, Jason.
Oh, yeah. Don't. If you're in a band, if you're watching this show right now and you're in a band that isn't at the level from someone that's been a guest on my show, do not press vinyl.
Don't do it.
There's cheap things you can do. Like, what's those things called? It's kind of like a test pressing. I can't think of the name of it. A lathe?
Oh, I haven't even heard of that.
It's cheap, and if you want to do it for like a cute thing, like I have a band and we're gonna do a show, do that for like your show locally. But if you're not really touring, and unless you just have money that you want to light on fire, because that's literally what you're. As someone that did it, we played a lot of shows, and we had thought we unloaded every box of vinyl. And right after the band broke up, or my ex left, our old manager hit me up. He goes, "Hey, I'm moving out of my apartment and I found a box of vinyl." So I have like 24 records.
I know the pain.
I have 24 records right there, and people go, "You should put it online." I was like, well, no. It's been over 10 years, or about 8 years since me and that woman, 9 years since me and that woman did anything live. I don't think anybody gives a shit about an album full of remixes of obscure European producers.
Yeah. It's hard to get people to care about. In fact, I have a song about this very thing we're talking about.
And it's on Spotify, and it's called, keep going. Make sure. I want you to get all the plays.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm being serious, man. I want you to get all the plays. Because I love, anytime I go on a show and someone goes, "and musician," I'm like, "Oh, you cared."
Yes. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. We know each other's pain. Hopefully there's other musicians tuning in because they're smiling right now.
Dude, I went on a show, the fucking Canceled podcast, and they introduced me as a musician, complimented what I did. And I think because of the nature of the hosts and the music that they did, it played well. All of a sudden, that month, it's like, you got 5,000 new spins. Like, oh shit, I'm gonna get a check for $32 this month.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So again, before you go, say the band, say where they can find you.
All right. It's band is Scolded Dogs. Solo album's just my name, Sam Shane. It's called Anybody Listening. And as often the answer is no to that question. Let's hope we get some more.
And I do have to ask, behind you have a couple guitars. Is that a Martin on the wall, the acoustic?
Oh no, that's my beater right there. It's an Alvarez. Okay. I got my beaters on the wall. I got my Les Paul in the hallway.
That's the one I took on the picture, right?
Yes, yeah.
Studio.
It's a Vixen.
Okay.
It's marketed to women. It's like this. The width is like this on that thing, and
Mhm.
I play, playing 3-4 hour shows. Nice on my back.
Oh, you're playing covers.
Well, yeah. Well, it's kind of fun. We are able to mix in like ad lib songs and
Mhm.
covers and originals. We've got 3 or 4 albums out, and it flows in seamlessly with the other stuff we play. We get away with it. It's kind of fun.
If you
It's
guys
kind
ever
of
go
fun.
out to a bar or anywhere and there's a cover band playing and you see them playing there for like, I don't know, 3 hours, throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. There's a lot of bullshit songs they had to learn. And I always throw a couple bucks in the tip jar. It's like, oof, you're playing covers. You're on your second hour and a half set. Okay.
Yeah. We avoid the bullshit songs. We play whatever the hell we want to. You know what I'm saying? We're playing Flashlight, we're playing uh, you know, Rick James, we're playing whatever we want.
Oh,
We don't
okay, damn.
we're
Yeah,
not
that's
doing Bon Jovi, we're not doing the wagon wheel. We're not doing that shit. It's not
uh,
happening.
Sam Shane, I just want you to know that you've officially won the title as hunkiest leftist. Sam Shane looks a lot like the hunky love interest in the Hallmark movie.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, Kush, red sweater firefighter.
Wow. That's a hell of a
So
compliment.
there you go, man. That right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So go to
That's
class with pride. You walk in that fucking teacher's lounge with pride.
I will. I will be crushing it tomorrow.
Thank you guys so much. The link is already up for the champagne room. I'll be in there. We can vent, we can laugh, we can do all the crazy shit we do. And Sam, I appreciate you reaching out to me. It was a pleasure having you on. I hope to have you on again.
Oh, I'd love to. Thanks so much, Jason. That was a lot of fun.
All right, guys. We are